As we reported last night, tariffs targeting bourbon are on hold for now. The U.S. and Canada agreed yesterday to put tariffs on pause for at least 30 days. Canada was prepared to put a hefty tax on imported bourbon. Bourbon is big business in Kentucky. The governor's office says the industry accounts for more than $9 billion in economic output each year and supports more than 23,000 jobs across the state. The Kentucky Distillers Association is commending leaders of both countries for suspending tariffs. The group's president, Eric Gregory, said, quote, "We look forward to permanent agreements that will enable Kentucky bourbon to be enjoyed internationally," end quote. Talk of tariffs come at a pivotal time for one of the state's signature industries. The Kentucky Distillers Association says 95% of the world's bourbon supply is made right here in Kentucky, with 100 licensed distillers in the state. Kentucky Edition sat down with the leaders of New Riff Distilling in northern Kentucky to learn how it's standing out and adapting to challenges in the bourbon industry.
I remember sitting around the dinner table with my dad in 2009, 2010, and he had this crazy idea, along with Jay Erisman, our co-founder, to build a distillery in northern Kentucky. They decided, let's do this. Let's build a distillery and resurrect the tradition of distillation and bourbon making in northern Kentucky. And so the vision was to be more of a go-to, really a star in northern Kentucky.
There were people when we announced this who wondered, I mean, Ken, why aren't you moving back home to Louisville? I mean, that's where the bourbon is. And he viewed this as this region, northern Kentucky, greater Cincinnati, as very untapped for something like bourbon and bourbon tourism. Down in Bardstown in Louisville, there's distilleries on every block, quite literally, you know. There's nothing up here. We were the bigger fish in the smaller pond. We knew we couldn't forecast what this region would be like in 20 years. There was nothing here on the riverfront. There were no hotels, there were no steakhouses, there was not the development that we see now on the riverbanks in Bellevue and Newport and Covington. Forecasting future trends and what is desirable and where it is desirable is a challenge. The rise of cannabinoid drinks did not exist when we were starting New Riff, and so how many people choose to engage in that instead of a bourbon? I think bourbon will stick around just fine. But those are just some of the challenges that we face.
You know, it's a interesting time in the world of bourbon. There are more distilleries in Kentucky than there ever have been. There are more distilleries in the nation than there ever have been. And we have 3 barrels aging per person, per resident here in the state of Kentucky currently. That's a lot of bourbon, a lot of barrels. So it's a time of needing to distinguish ourselves.
So the back of the bottle kind of encapsulates it. It says a new riff on an old tradition. We make sour mash whiskey. We use equipment very similar to the past distilleries, the column beer still, the doubler, all copper, things like that. But we give ourselves freedom to be very different with it. We are new.
Another important principle to us was that when we were releasing New Riff whiskey, we wanted to make sure that it was completely all produced, bottled, and aged here at New Riff. We have, I call it our secret weapon, we have an alluvial aquifer under the distillery. So that means that we have water running from Kentucky, from a little more inland into Kentucky, right through where we're standing right now, our distillery, to the Ohio River. We run the entire distillery on that alluvial aquifer. It's very, very hard water and very mineral-rich water. And so we feel that mineral-rich water makes our whiskey so good, even at such a young age.
It's a generational process to really get to the bottom of what a good distillery is like. Making whiskey, at any rate, something that has to age.
We're proud that we were sharing so much about our process and about who we were, and social media went crazy. You know, and all the bourbon forums and all the bourbon groups wanted to try New Riff, and it was all over Reddit and it was all over the internet, and that helped propel us from a little startup brand in Kentucky to a national and even international brand.
New Riff products will be available in retailers across the country by the end of the year. The distillery has been at the northernmost point of Kentucky's Bourbon Trail since 2014.